ॐ विश्वन्दर्पण दृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रिय ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ I welcome you all to the 26th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. We have been looking into the question of how an adhikari becomes an adhikari. We said that an adhikari has to gain sadhana chatushtaya sampattihi, these fourfold qualifications: vivekaha, vairagyam, shamadhishatka sampattihi, and mumukshutvam. Now, why are these qualifications important? We said that the jivaha is already Brahman, but he is ignorant of his own Brahman status. If he was just ignorant of his Brahman status, then the pramana, the Shabda Pramana of Vedanta would have been sufficient to remove his ignorance. But then he is not just ignorant, he is turbulently ignorant. Why is he turbulently ignorant? As we said, in addition to the ajnanam, the ignorance, there are two more impurities in the mind. One is malam, and the other is vikshepaha. So, these two impurities have to be addressed before the ajnanam can be addressed. And it's basically the reduction of these two impurities that appears as the rise in the qualifications, the fourfold qualifications. So now, how are these two impurities addressed? Malam and vikshepaha. So malam is addressed through karma yoga, and vikshepaha is addressed through upasana yoga. So we are in the process of understanding what karma yoga is. And for that we need to understand, as we said, four topics, four subtopics. One is, what is this malam? which is of the nature of samskaras, past impressions, vasanas. That's the first subtopic. Second is what are raga dveshas, these likes and dislikes, attraction and aversion, and how do they come about. And the third is Ishvara, the topic of Ishvara. The fourth is Dharma, which we have already covered extensively. And when these four subtopics come together, then we can connect them and understand what Karma Yoga is and how it works and why it works. So we have covered the topic of vasanas and raga dveshas that we will summarize briefly. So what are these? What is the malam? What are these vasanas? As we said, they are sanskaratmana, of the nature of samskaras. Samskaras means past impressions. And they are not manifest. Na pratyakshi kriyate. They cannot be observed. They are in the subconscious mind. I don't even know about their existence. But when a person engages in nishiddha karmas, or when a person is attracted to sense objects, then we can infer their presence. We can only infer their presence. Anumiyate. Inference is used. Now, how are these past impressions, how are these samskaras generated? We said that they are generated through our own past karmas. Each of the karmas that we engage in, it has two outcomes. One is the phalam, which affects the experiencer, the bhokta. And the other is this vasana that influences the doer, the karta. As we saw in the example of the cigarette smoking, the very first time this person was free to pick up the cigarette or to leave it. But then once he started to do that action, the phalam starts to affect his lungs in the form of poor health. It affects the experiencer. But then there is this habit also that is generated, which affects the doer, the karta. And every subsequent action strengthens that habit. And after 10 years of smoking, then it's his vasana that's calling the shots. It tells him, go pick up that cigarette again. And this time, his free will has comparatively become weaker because his vasana is so strong. So even though he reads that smoking is injurious to health, he still goes ahead and picks up the cigarette. These vasanas influence the karta, they influence what one does, how one acts, etc. And that's why we saw in the shloka of the Bhagavad Gītā, Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakrutehe jnanavan api prakrutim yanti bhutani nikrah kim karishyati. So jnanavan api swasyaha prakrutehe sadrisham cheshtate. That even a jnani acts according to his prakriti. We find that there are active jnanis and there are passive jnanis. Both know I am full and complete, I am Brahman. But then one person is passive and one person is engaged in the world. One person is withdrawn, the other is active. Why is this the case? It's purely because of their past impressions that attracts one person to withdrawal and the other person to action. Oh, Shankaracharya said there in the commentary, as we saw, that nigraha king karishyati mamava anyasya va. Meaning, Shankara was completing Krishna's sloka. He added Mamava Anyasyava, as if Krishna is saying this, that even my nigraha, I cannot tie up the Prakriti, nor can anybody else. So Prakriti Myanti Bhutani, all the beings, they act according to their Prakriti. Right from birds, animals, insects, plants, trees, all the beings. This then led to the question, what then happens to free will? And what happens to the Dharma Shastras that are telling me do this and don't do this? So that was answered in the next shloka that we saw. Indriyasyendriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavasthitau tayor na vashamagached tauhyasya paripanthinau. So indriyasyendriyasyarthe, that with respect to all the objects of all the sense organs, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, everything. Ragadveshau vyavasthitau. Shankara said, Avashyam bhavinau, that ragadveshas will be there. Ragadveshas are universal. Why do they come about? As we said, the unmanifest version of Prakriti, which is the vasanas, the only way it can accomplish something is by manifesting itself in the form of ragas and dveshas in the conscious mind. The unmanifest version of Prakriti has to become the manifest version of Prakriti in the conscious mind in the form of raga, dvesha, vrittis. And it tries to influence the vyaparaha, which is the grandchild. As we said, vasanas are like the grandmother. The raga, dvesha, vritti is like her daughter. And then the vyaparaha is like a grandchild of the vasanas. The vasana cannot directly cause the vyaparaha, cannot make the grandchild do something. It has to happen through the ragadvesha vritti. So these vrittis arise helplessly in the mind. I have no free will with regards to, I cannot will whether they arise or not. That is how the vasanas work. They produce this ragadvesha vritti without the involvement of my free will. Now, we saw the case of the person who has self-ignorance. He has the samanya jnanam that I am there, but he lacks the vishesha jnanam that I am purnam brahma. He doesn't have that knowledge. So he invariably commits a mistake about who I am. And as we said, he superimposes the limitations, the attributes of the body and the mind upon himself and starts to say, I am this body, I am this mind. And then what happens is that as this person scans the world, even as this person scans the world acts as a stimulus. It prods the vasanas, udbodhaka, as we said. And the vasanas produce the raga, dvesha, vrittis. Helplessly they arise in the mind. And then he begins to categorize the world as this part of the world I like, this part of the world I dislike. So he is already saying, I am the body mind. So as these raga dveshas arise in the mind, naturally he claims the raga dveshas as his own. He says, I have these ragas and dveshas. Therefore, I like this, I don't like this. I am attracted to this, I am not attracted, I am repelled by this. Now, these raga dveshas cannot leave the mind in peace for this jiva. Doesn't let him be at peace. They create this internal pressure to align the world according to the ragas and dveshas. So then How does one go about aligning the world according to one's own ragas and dveshas? One has to do karma. One has to act. That is the only way to adjust the world. If I don't have something, I try to acquire that thing. And if I have something that I don't like, I try to get rid of it. So then this jiva gets involved in karma, in actions. Why? Because this is the only way the jiva sees that there is some way I can gain some fulfillment. Because if a raga and dvesha is constantly there and rankling in the mind, then he cannot let it be there. He's already saying, I am apurna. And this apurna individual feels even more apurna in the presence of raga dveshas that are not satisfied. So the only way this apurna individual sees some ray of hope for some satisfaction is to adjust the world according to the raga dveshas. Therefore, he gets involved in the world. Atha kama and dharma. But then, as we have seen, whatever he accomplishes is limited. And any amount of limited accomplishment, yes, it does quench that raga dvesha for a temporary period. That is what we call fulfillment. That is what we call fulfillment. And for the sake of this fulfillment, he pursues with actions. But then this fulfillment is temporary. Why? Because whatever we can get from the world is this anitya sukham. This temporary sukham. For a period of time, yes, there is some enjoyment. There is, when this raga dveshas are silenced, in that silenced mind, as we said, my own Atmananda is reflected. I get some happiness. Like a dog chewing on the bone. It sucks its own blood and it says that I got this happiness because of this object. So, this is temporary fulfillment. And then the next set of raga dveshas arise. Because the world is constantly changing. So something else now he likes or doesn't like. Therefore, he has to adjust the world. Adjust the world. He's busy adjusting the world. Now, there are two outcomes for the actions as we discussed. The action may succeed. Like we said, the raga dveshas may get quenched. In which case, he is reinforcing the vasana that gave rise to the raga dveshas. Now, there is another outcome that he may fail in that action. The raga dveshas continue to rankle the mind, but he has not been able to adjust the world according to it. And then he feels miserable. He feels like a loser. And he feels that helplessness, anger, frustration, depression. This is the turbulence of the mind that we are talking about. And how these raga dveshas result in the turbulence of the mind. Riti mahodadhau patana karanam phalama shashvatam gati nirodhakam. He falls into this ocean of actions. Kriti mahodadhau patana karanam phalama shashvatam. Whatever he accomplishes is ashashvatam, is finite, limited, is perishable. Dukkha mishritatvam, atriptikaratvam, bandhavatvam. Gati nirodhakam, phalama shashvatam, kriti mahodadhau patana karanam phalama shashvatam gati nirodhakam. And therefore he is constantly, this keeps him going. Because he never gets purnatvam. He is always a purna. He keeps going, adjusting the world, adjusting the world. This is the running on the treadmill. So this approach to life is gati nirodhakam. It doesn't give him any spiritual growth. It makes him more and more dependent on the world. The ragas and dveshas, basically, the more ragas and dveshas one has, the more dependent on particular states of the world one becomes. So, this is why Krishna says in the second part, Tayor na vasham agachet. Tau hyasya paripanthinau. Don't come under the sway of the ragas and dveshas. Krishna doesn't say don't have the raga dveshas. The raga dveshas happen not because of my free will, because of the vasanas. Yes, my free will had a role to play, but it was my past free will that created all these vasanas, but not my present free will. The raga dvesha vrittis arise, but now Krishna says, don't come under their spell, don't come under their sway. So this is the guidance that Krishna gives. Tau hasya paripanthinau. They are like robbers. Why? Because they rob one of one's viveka, dharma viveka, which is an extremely important possession that one should have in the spiritual journey. And without that, the spiritual journey is not possible. So then what is the solution? How does one not come under their sway? The ultimate solution, as we said, is for the words of Vedanta to work. And when the words of Vedanta do their job, one sees I am Purnaha. And when I know that I am Purnaha, I am full and complete, then these raga dveshas, they just arise and they just die. The one who knows one is Purnaha can never come under the spell of the raga dveshas. That is the ultimate solution. But then we have a problem, as we said, there is this vicious cycle that as long as the ragas and dveshas are strong, the words of Vedanta doesn't work, cannot work. And for the words of Vedanta to work, the raga dveshas have to be weakened. With the strong raga dveshas, these words don't work. But then, in order to get freedom from these raga dveshas, the words have to work. You see the cycle, right? So this is a bit like one's hands are tied up with a rope. One has the scissors in one's hands, as we saw. But then one is not able to maneuver the scissors to cut the rope because they are so tight. On the other hand, if the rope is loosened a bit, then it's possible to cut the rope and be totally free of the rope. Exactly the same situation here. So then the intermediate solution is to gain some relative freedom from these ragas and dveshas. It has to be relatively free so that the teaching of Vedanta can work. So we ourselves know, as we saw, that when we have some strong feelings about how the world should be, and when we say the world, it includes, the food that we eat, for example. My spice should be exactly this much, salt should be exactly this much, etc. Or with regards to the people I interact with, either in the family or at work, wherever. If I have some strong ideas about this should be, I like it this way, I hate it the other way, etc., then almost every day something or the other will cause disturbances. Almost every meal will become a problem. On the other hand, we ourselves know that when we have preferences, and not these strong ragas and dveshas. For example, somebody says, I like to have tea at this time. But if that is not available, then something else, even milk is okay. Then if someone gets tea or milk, okay, fine. I prefer tea, but fine, no problem. So the word loses its grip on me at that point. So I am the one with the ragas and dveshas who provides a grip to the world to disturb me. That is how the world gets the capacity to disturb me. Otherwise, the world has no capacity at all to disturb me if one is free of these ragas and dveshas. That is what a jnani is. The jnani knows I am Purnaha. But in the intermediate time frame, you want a certain loosening of the grip of the ragas and dveshas. And this mind says, okay, either way, this state, is known as samatvam. Samatvam means that whatever way the world fluctuates, the mind is not disturbed by that. One has to cultivate a value for this samatvam. He is not a jnani yet. But even in the intermediate stage, one has to see the value for the samatvam and then adopt the means for gaining the samatvam. So this is where said karma yoga comes in. Tayorna vasham agachet. You don't act on the raga dveshas impulsively. Don't come under their sway, is what Krishna is saying. Then how does one proceed? Says that is the opportunity for the free will to intervene now. The raga dvesha vritti has arisen in the mind. And then what do I do with it? How far do I go with this vritti? That is a decision I have to make. I have free will. I have my free to apply my free will there. Swamiji gives this example of a diver. A diver dives from a springboard. These Olympics has started now, so we will see more of it, I suppose. So this diver is standing on a springboard, and then he jumps from the springboard, and then he finally hits the pool. Now, as soon as he jumps from the springboard, he does all these maneuvers, and then finally hits the pool. The more maneuvers he does, he's considered to be good at it. The more he is able to do all kinds of twists and turns, and finally hits the pool. He gets a medal for it. Swamiji likens the arising of the raga dvesha vritti as this diver jumping from the springboard. And then the vyapara is how he hits the pool. So in between he does all these maneuvers. So similarly, in those few seconds after the raga dvesha vritti arises, that is the chance for the free will to intervene and then do whatever is required, filter it, edit it, transform it in some way, and that transformed vritti is the one that results in the vyaparaha for an intelligent person. Person who understands, who has been exposed to this shastra, who understands what Krishna is saying here, that person then processes the vritti, post-processes it. And then that post-processed vritti is what determines his vyaparaha, which is speech or action. Such a person is known as Samskrita Purushaha, meaning one who is doing this post-processing. As Shankara said in his commentary, Tat Pratipakshena Niyamayati. By bringing in this counterbalancing force. For example, we saw that there might be a raga vritti that is prodding one to do some adharma. But then one brings in this dharma vivekaha, this counterbalancing vritti, which says that this is something that may give me some pleasure or some gain in the short term, but this is something I should not engage in because it is adharma. It will bring me a loss in the long term. It will bring me dukkham in the long term. Similarly, there might be some dharma karya that one is thinking of engaging in, but there may be some dvesha vritti that comes in that says, hey, why do you want to get into all this? Why do you want to do this? You will have to spend half an hour on this japa. Why not watch some TV instead? That point, again, one brings in this counterbalancing vritti that says that even though it brings me some pain in the short term, this is going to result in long-term sukham. Therefore, I must engage in it. So this type of intervention, this Samskrita Purushaha does. The Prakrita Purushaha, on the other hand, is Raga Dvesha Pradhana. That person doesn't have all this intervention. He feels that I have to pursue this Raga Dvesha Vritti because I'll get pleasure out of it. I'll get some artha or kamaha out of it. And therefore, no post-processing, the unprocessed vritti results in vyapara. And then he gets into all kinds of trouble as we discussed. he is not able to come out of samsara. So this is the difference between karma and karma yoga. Karma means my aim is that I want to adjust the world according to my raga dvesha vritti. That is my aim. My inner growth or spiritual goal is not there at all. Whereas in karma yoga, sure, I can engage in my raga dvesha vrittis after they are post processed, making sure that what I engage in is dharma. But then, even if that doesn't work out, I'm willing to accept it in order to loosen the hold of my raga dveshas. Because the aim is inner growth by loosening the hold of the ragas and dveshas. So, this is karma yoga. This is entirely something entirely different, where the aim is chitta shuddhi. As we said, that karma yoga is there in order to weaken the hold of the raga dveshas. We are trying to disempower the raga dveshas. And then the mind becomes non-reacting. The turbulence of the mind comes down. Samatvam is there, and in that kind of a mind, the teaching of Vedanta can work. So, the very actions that we had earlier dismissed as incapable of producing knowledge, we said, Jnanam is also eka sadhana sadhyam, and the sadhanam is pramana. We have to come to the Vedanta pramana. We have to come to Shravana. At that point, one is not engaging in karma. And those actions we are dismissed as incapable of giving rise to the liberating knowledge. But then the same actions are now brought in karma yoga as karma yoga in order to help with the purification of the mind, with not the primary aim of adjusting the world, but in order to purify the mind. This is karma yoga. So as we said, we come to the third topic now, which is Ishvara. So only when we understand all of this, we can put it all together and see what karma yoga is. Very important topic in Vedanta, Ishvara. Because we have a lot of funny ideas about who Ishvara is. But then a study of Vedanta clarifies who Ishvara really is. Let us get into this topic now. As we said, any effect must have a cause. This is a fundamental law. There cannot be an effect without a cause. We say the world is also an effect. Even science says that the world originated at some point. Anything that originates at some point is an effect. It must have a cause. So if we were to ask science, and science says that the world started with this Big Bang. And if we were to ask them what caused this Big Bang, then science says that before the Big Bang there was this singularity. And in the singularity, this entire universe was compressed in some small speck-like thing. Then the laws of physics don't work at that point. That is what they say. So effectively, they're saying we don't know. We don't know what caused the Big Bang. Vedanta says that before the universe came into existence, Ishvara was there. Ishvara is a conscious being. Consciousness was there. In science is a highly materialistic system. In that, consciousness is a byproduct of matter. So according to this Big Bang and all that, matter originated out of this Big Bang. They don't talk about consciousness at that point. And consciousness somehow comes up later due to some interaction between this matter that happens that nobody has still been able to explain. And Vedanta says that nobody will be able to explain how consciousness arises out of matter. It is impossible. So science gives primacy to matter and tries to explain how consciousness arises out of matter, an effort that they have so far not been successful at. What Vedanta says, in the beginning, consciousness was there. This conscious being, Ishvara, was there. And then in Vedanta, matter is on the other hand. This consciousness is not a product of matter. The matter comes about through Maya. We will see that. In fact, Maya is this primordial form of matter. It is an unmanifest form of matter. So using this consciousness, Maya, Vedanta explains the origination of the universe. So Ishvara was there. Now, in order to further understand Ishvara, let us look at any creation and how it comes about. For example, let us take a car. Now, a car is an intelligently put together, intricately put together thing where all these parts are working together to make the car do what it does. So a car has got various materials that go into its manufacturing, various raw materials. So there is steel, there is rubber, there is glass and plastic, there is copper, and all kinds of metals are there because all kinds of electronic parts are there. So if we were to dump all these raw materials in one big heap and wait for it to turn into a car, will that ever happen? The materials may just rust and rot and decay, but nothing else will happen. What is required is not just the material, but an intelligence behind the materials. An intelligence has to be there to put these materials, to mold these materials in certain forms and connect them together in such a way that it works beautifully together. That is why we say that any creation must have two causes. One is the material cause, which is known as Upadana Karanam. Materials must be there. Upadana Karanam. And then the intelligence must also be there. There must be intelligence and skill in some conscious being. That intelligence or skill must be there. That is the Nimitta Karanam. There is Upadana Karanam and Nimitta Karanam. These two causes have to be there for any kind of purposefully put together functional object to come about. So now let us take two examples of a potter who creates a pot or a carpenter who creates furniture. The potter is there. The potter has the intelligence and the skill to create a pot. Now, where does the potter get the material from? He gets it from the creation because in this universe, in this world, clay is available. So he gets that clay. And then he puts it on the wheel and turns it around. He wets it, puts it on the wheel, and he does his skillful magic to create this beautiful pot. Now this carpenter, he has to create this furniture. He has the idea of the furniture in his mind. Now he has to get the wood. Where does he get it from? He gets it from the world. And then he is able to chop this and into nice pieces, and that all connect nicely together, and then he creates this beautiful furniture. So in this, if we see, the material always goes with the product. Now they sell their pot and the furniture. Now whoever buys this pot, he takes the clay also home. Whoever buys the furniture, he takes the wood also home. It is not possible to leave the material and take the product. On the other hand, the maker, creator of this is left behind, thankfully. We don't have to drag the creator along with the product to our house. Now, let's come to this world. So how did this world come about? We say, now normally people try to apply this general things that we see in the world, to the creation of the universe also. There are several theologies that talk about a God in heaven who created this universe. Now, this kind of an idea of a God sitting somewhere up there in heaven who created this universe, that gives rise to a few questions. You're saying that God in heaven created this universe, then who created the universe? Now, if you say God created if God in heaven created the universe, then who created the heaven? That's the question. And if you say that God created the heaven also, then where was God before he created the heaven? And if you are admitting to the fact that God himself created the heaven, then you don't have the necessity to put the God in heaven anymore. You have to now answer the question about where God was before he created the heaven. And then there is no good answer for that. And then the next question is, where did God get the materials for creating the universe from? Because you are taking this example of the potter created the pot. The potter finds this clay in the world. Now, where did God find the materials? Because the world is not yet created. Again, no good answer for it. Because if you are saying God is just the intelligent cause, then where did God find the materials? No good answer. And then, according to Vedanta, and even according to science, space and time are also products. When the world was not there, the space and time also did not exist. So when space itself is not there, how can there be a heaven somewhere? Because heaven has to exist somewhere in space. So there are no good answers for all of these questions if we probe into this. So Vedanta rejects this idea that a God sitting somewhere in heaven created this world. Then what does Vedanta say about this? As we said, Vedanta says that before this universe came into existence, Ishvara was there. So Vedanta introduces Ishvara as the cause of this universe, as an intelligent cause, let us say. So we say Ishvara is the intelligent cause of this universe. Ishvara has the skill and the knowledge and the skill to create this world, the conscious being. But then now again the same question, where did Ishvara get the materials from? Very important question. And Vedanta gives a stunning answer for this. Vedanta says that Ishvara cannot get the materials from the world. The world is not yet there. And where? Again, where did Ishvara get the material from? Vedanta says Ishvara himself is the material also. Ishvara finds the material within himself. In fact, Ishvara is the material cause also. This is a mind-boggling view that Vedanta brings forward. In fact, we don't say it is a view really. It's the Shabda Pramana of Vedanta that is telling me this. Vaidika Shabda Pramana. This knowledge cannot be gained through any other means of knowledge. Why? Because there can be nobody who observes the creation of the world, because the human being himself is not there at that point. How can anybody talk about observing the creation of the world? Therefore, we rely on the Shabda Pramana of Vedanta. Words are the means of knowledge. So, Vedanta presents Ishvara as a unified, intelligent, and material cause of the world. Abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Abhinna nimitta upadana karanam, meaning the unified nimitta, intelligent, upadana, material cause. So Ishvara transcends space and time. So Ishvara can be there when the world is not there. Why? Because Ishvara is the nature of consciousness, conscious being. Before the world comes, Ishvara can comfortably be there. Ishvara doesn't require space and time to be there. Why? Because space and time exist in consciousness. We'll come to all of this in detail later. Ishvara can be there before space arises, before time arises. But then the world cannot be there without Ishvara, because Ishvara is a material cause. Just as a pot cannot be there without clay, the furniture cannot be there without wood, Ishvara, the world cannot be there without Ishvara, but Ishvara can be there without the world. This is a very important knowledge that Vedanta provides us. And it takes a reorientation of the mind in order to appreciate this. This vision of Ishvara, I wouldn't say view of Ishvara, this vision of Ishvara has to be appreciated. So now, there can be an objection here that, all the examples that we see, whether we take the example of the potter creating the pot, or this carpenter creating the furniture, etc., in all of those examples, the intelligent cause and the material cause are different. The potter is different from the clay. The furniture maker, the carpenter, is different from the wood. Now, how can we even appreciate something like this intelligent cause and the material cause are one? Do you have anything to substantiate this? So this is where the Upanishad gives a very creative, a very interesting example. And this is the mantra that I had sent in the PDF today. So we will take a look at that. And this is from the Mundaka Upanishad. So as we said, this is called a mantra. All the Upanishad Vakyas, they are called as mantras, not shlokas. Because it is Apaurushaya Pramana. So this is an example of the Vedika Shabda Pramana that we talked about, where the words reveal a certain knowledge that is impossible to gain through the Laukika Pramanas. We will read that and then we will look at the meaning. Yathornanabhihi srijate grinhate cha yatha prithivyaam aushadhayas sambhavanti yatha satah purushat keshalomani tatha ksharat sambhavati havishvam. This is the Mundaka Upanishad. It says yatha. This is Mundaka Upanishad 117. First chapter, first section, 7th mantra. It says yatha urnanabhihi srijate grinhate cha. This gives the example of an urnanabhihi, meaning a spider. Yatha urnanabhihi srijate grinhate cha, like a spider creates a web. Here, srijate means it creates, and grinnate means it takes it back. Srijate grinnate cha. This word grinnate is pronounced as grinhate, grinhate. The nakara comes before the hakara. This is one of the rare examples in Sanskrit where the pronunciation, the preferred pronunciation, is different from the order of the aksharas. See, unlike English, where TO is to, but GO is go. In Sanskritam, you never have this problem. What you see is what you get. Whatever is the order of aksharas, if you pronounce the aksharas exactly, the pronunciation will be right. There's nothing like an O becoming an U in some words or an O in other words. That doesn't happen. But this is one of the rare examples where the pronunciation is different from the order of the aksharas. The same thing in Brahman also. In Brahman, that is how it should be pronounced actually, not Brahman. Even though it is Brahman in the order of akshara, it's pronounced as Brahman or Brahmana. That's how it is pronounced. Or Vanhihi, Vanhihi. Vanhihi means Agni. So whenever there is a nakara, makara, nakara, etc., along with this makara, the nakara, makara, nakara, etc., are pronounced first, according to the tradition, according to the Vedic rules of chanting also. So yatha urnanabhihi srijate grinhate cha. Meaning just like a spider produces this web, and later it swallows it. How does the spider find the material from the web, for the web, from within itself? And then once it creates it, at some point it's able to swallow it also. Sometimes we see the spider hanging from the top with a thin thread. And then if we touch the spider, it gets alarmed and suddenly it swallows whatever string and it goes up. Whatever string there is, it produces, it swallows it and it goes up. Srijate grinhate cha. Tatha aksharat sambhavati ha vishwam, says the Upanishad. Tatha aksharat sambhavati iha vishwam. So in the same manner, this world also emerged out of Ishvara. Ishvara is the material also. Ishvara did not create this world, getting the material from somewhere outside. There was no outside at that point. Ishvara became the world basically. The spider becomes the web. So Ishvara has become this world. And then the world resolves back into Ishvara at the time of Pralayam. Like there's this shloka in the Vishnu Sahasranama that those of us who chant it would be familiar with. Yatas sarvani bhutani Bhavantyadi yugagame yasminscha pralayan yanti punareva yugakshaye. Yata sarvani bhutani bhavantyadi yugagame. Yugagame, at the beginning of the cycle of creation, the sarvani bhutani bhavanti. Yataha, it says, from whom all these beings emerge at the beginning of the creation. All the elements and all the elementals. And then, yasminscha pralayanyanti punareva yugakshaye. At the time of dissolution, they go back into this unmanifest form. So everything is there, the entire world is there, all the beings in an unmanifest form in Ishvara. And Ishvara just brings them out. The Ishvara is the material. Ishvara becomes this world and all the beings. Sarvani bhutani bhavantyadi yugagame. So Ishvara creates the world is not the right terminology really. Ishvara becomes the world is the right way to look at it. This world is a manifestation of Ishvara. The world was there in Ishvara in an unmanifest form. And then the world just becomes manifest. That is what we are saying. Ishvara becomes the world. So this is the first part of this mantra. Now an objection can be raised here that you can understand like beings coming out of beings. For example, a human being can produce a human being. Each species produces its own species. But then there is so much diversity in this creation. There are plants and trees and animals, insects, all of this. Now, how can such a variety come out of this one being? So this is the second part of the mantra that says, Yatha prithvivyam oshadhayas sambhavanti. Just like there are plants and trees that originate from the earth. There's such a variety of plants and trees. Where do they come from? They come from the earth. The earth is the cause of the plants and the trees. So such a variety is able to come from the earth. So what is your problem with this variety coming out of Ishvara? Is a counter question the Upanishad is asking with this example. Oh, Eka Karanat Aneka Vidha Karanam. Eka Karanat, from one cause, there is Aneka Vidha Karyam. Eka Karanat Aneka Vidha Karyam. From one cause, many effects are produced. Varying effects are produced. Then there can be another objection that is raised, that how can a mountain come out of a conscious being, for example, or rivers and lakes? You see, all these inert things also. Akashaha, Vayuhu, Agnihi, Jalam, Prithvi. All of these are inert. How can they come out of a conscious being? How can inert things come? Here, in order to answer this, the Upanishad gives another example. Yatha satah purushat kesha lomani. Satah purushat meaning from a living person, from a living human being. There's all this kesha, hair, and lomani, hair on the head, kesha, and lomani is hair on the body. So from a sentient being, some inert things become, we see it. It is on your body, the Upanishad is saying. The objector is raising this question, and then on his body, all this is there. The Upanishad is pointing out. No, all this hair is really insentient. If the hair and the nails, etc., if they were sentient, then Swamiji says that we would hear screams coming out of a barber shop when the barber is cutting the hair. Then you're walking outside, you hear loud screams from inside. Why? Because he is cutting the hair if the hair was sentient. So instead, people would prefer to have hair surgery done under anesthesia in some hospital. That is what we would need to do if the hair was really sentient. The hair is clearly an example of something insentient that emerges from a sentient being. So what is your problem with insentient things coming out of a conscious being, that is Ishvara? So this is the example. Now, this is a real shift in the vision of who Ishvara is. And it takes a lot of subsequent mananam on this in order to appreciate this vision. Because we are conditioned right from childhood that Ishvara is somebody who's sitting somewhere up there. And this shift has to come about through the study of Vedanta. So what we call the world, we said it has emerged out of Ishvara. So the world is Ishvara. The pot is clay. The ornament is gold. Whatever the product is, it is the material cause. It is just in a different name and form. The bangle is gold. The necklace is gold. The bangle and the necklace are different names and forms of gold. Similarly, this world is Ishvara because Ishvara is the material cause. All these are names and forms of Ishvara. Whatever we see here is Ishvara. Here, there is something we have to appreciate, which is in algebra. If A is B, then B is also A. If X equals Y, then Y is equal to X. But in Vedanta, it is not necessarily true. When we say that the ornament is gold, that is a true statement. And then the gold cannot be said to be gold is ornament. Because the gold can exist without being an ornament also. Similarly, the furniture is wood. But wood is not furniture. You cannot say wood is furniture. Similarly, this world is Ishvara. Ishvara is not the world. Ishvara can be without this world also, without the manifest world. Space is Ishvara. Time is Ishvara. Ishvara is therefore all pervading. As we said, the product cannot be without the material. Wherever the pot is, the clay is also there. Wherever the ornament is, the gold is there. So wherever the world is, whatever we take in the world, Ishvara is there. Whatever we take, the space, time, the sun, moon, stars, galaxy, everything is manifest Ishvara. So all the laws here, there are physical laws, chemical laws, biological laws. There are various laws in this universe that are also there. All those laws are also manifestation of Ishvara. So this vision that the Ishvara is the intelligent and material cause is very unique to Sanatana Dharma. It's coming from the Vedas. So no object is apart from Ishvara, as we saw. And therefore, we can invoke Ishvara for prayer in any object. That is why we are able to pray to a tree. We are able to pray to the Tulasi plant. We can invoke Ishvara in a ball of turmeric also. We can pray to the books. We can pray to anything because whatever we are invoking Ishvara, and there Ishvara is already all pervading. Ishvara pervades everything. Therefore, we have no problem invoking Ishvara for prayer in any object. This is where all this vision comes from. from the Vedas, from this Upanishadic view of who Ishvara is. So only in this, when Ishvara, if Ishvara was just the intelligent cause who creates something, Ishvara cannot be all-pervading. For Ishvara to be all-pervading, Ishvara has to be the material cause also. So somebody asked Pujya Swamiji once, that does Hinduism have many gods? Pujya Swamiji said, no. And somebody, the same person asked, so then does it mean Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma has got the one God? Swamiji said, no. What are you saying? You're saying you don't have many gods. There's no one God also. Swamiji said, we have only God. We don't have many gods. We don't have one God. We have only God. Why? Because this, wherever we see there is God. We cannot see anything other than God. There is Ishvara everywhere. This is the shift in vision that is needed. We take the example of the dream. And in the dream, whatever you look at is the waker only. Why? Because the entire dream has emerged out of the waker. Whatever we see, it is the waker. So let us talk about two dream individuals who are talking. Is there a God? He is asking. He is saying, yes, yes, God is there. Where is God? Because God is everywhere. And whatever he sees, whatever he's saying, it is the waker. It is the waker that has come about as this dream. Whatever you're looking at, it is the vasanas of the waker that have manifested in the form of the dream. When the waker wakes up, where does the dream go? It goes back into the waker from which this dream world emerged. It was a dream space, dream time, dream sun, dream moon, dream stars, dream galaxy. Everything came out of that waker who projected the dream. Conscious being, that is the waker. Similarly, Ishvara is a super waker who has projected this world. Everything here is Ishvara. This is the shift in vision that is required. With this, our next topic that I wanted to cover today, but we will pause at this point because this is a good point to take a break, is how this same Ishvara is the karma phala data. How this Ishvara is the giver of all the results. So that is something we'll take up in the next class. I'll conclude today. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. We can take any questions or comments now.
So can I ask, sir?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting topic and twist and turn as usual. Okay. One of the first question is, since Ishvara is the intelligent as well as material cause, since everything is Ishvara, the Advaita philosophy is coming from this aspect. Am I right, sir? There is no difference. There is no material, there is no God. There is no God, there is no material. So it means the Advaitic Siddhartha philosophy is coming from this aspect. Am I right?
Well, there is one more step that is required after this, because
Yeah.
now that we have brought in the Ishvara, right?
Correct.
Now, there can be this view that this Jivaha,
Mm.
this individual,
Mm.
is separate from Ishvara. One can have that kind of an idea, right? Even after appreciating this vision of Ishvara, one can still be under the view that I am different from this intelligent and material cause, this Ishvara who created everything, who has become everything. One can still feel some separation from this Ishvara, right?
Mm.
What Advaita does, it removes this separation between the Jiva and the Ishvara also. We will come to that. We haven't yet discussed that topic, where we come to the point that there is one reality underlying the Jiva and the Ishvara also. That one reality we have to come to, and that becomes Advaita.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, in that case, no, that may be only for argument or debate purpose. Since everything is the intelligent cause and material cause is God,
Yes.
I think there is no that kind of a thought should arise according to me. This is my way of looking at it. That is the first one. The second one, if everything is the manifested everywhere, the world, the universe, everything is manifestation of the God.
Yes.
And why we are still feeling that we are apurnaha, not the purnatvam, because we are part of creature from the God.
Yes.
This I am unable to relate.
Yes. Yes. So basically,
Speaker, எடுத்தா வர மாட்டேங்குது ஸ்ரீராம்.
this entire universe, as we said, has emerged from Ishvara, and Ishvara has got this Maya Shakti. So there's this conscious being, there's consciousness and Maya, from which this entire world has emerged. So the Maya does two things. One is it has a power to conceal something and a power to project something. The Jiva is under the spell of Maya. And because of this, the Jiva feels that I am separate. I am this limited individual. So basically, the ignorance, as we have said, the ignorance is there. And the ignorance causes this superimposition that I am this limited individual. And therefore, the Jiva feels that I am Apurna because of Ajnana.
I think we are studying that as part of our fundamentals of Vedanta. But only question here remains to be answered is why so much of difference? We are part of the creation of the material cause by the God or by the Ishvara. Why so much of differences between various creation? Why not be common and then everybody should have been part of Ishvara? And I'm just having this doubt.
Yes. So the purpose, if you ask why did Ishvara create the world, the purpose is that Ishvara wants to give the results of the punya and papa to all of the jivas, the punyas and for the punyas and papas to be exhausted, for the jivas, punyas and papas to be exhausted. They have to be given the results, and therefore this world is required. And the jiva interacts with this world and gets the sukha and dukkha that exhausts the punya and papa. So in this way, the jiva gets a chance to grow spiritually and then come to moksha. So basically, it is only by interacting with the world and by realizing the limitations, etc., that, as we said, one comes to the pursuit of moksha also. And then once the jiva is ready, then the jiva receives this jnanam that wakes up this jiva. And the jiva understands that I am really one with Ishvara. So that is the the progress and the progress of the study. We have not touched upon some of these parts in the study as yet, but that is how it'll proceed. So does that answer the?
answer, but only question remains still for me. When he creates first human being, whatever you call it as the first being,
Yes.
there is no punya pava coming because it's the first creation coming out of the God. There is no question of punya pava when the first creation has happened. Where does punya pava comes to get this, realization of apurnatvam and apurnatvam?
So the answer to that is that there never was a first creation.
Oh,
This Ishvara, as we said, is eternal. Ishvara is imperishable.
correct.
And Ishvara transcends space and time.
Time, yeah.
So Ishvara never had a beginning.
No end also.
No end also and no beginning also.
Okay.
And therefore, there was never a first creation. But Ishvara has always been there. It means that that the worlds have come and gone, come and gone. When did this begin? It never began. It has always been like this. It says here, right? Punareva yugakshaye. And then Punareva yugakshaye means this yugakshayam is happening again. Punareva yugakshaye. This happened before.
Yeah.
The yugakshayam, the kshaya of the yuga happened before, and then there was before that there was another yuga and so on. There was never a beginning.
There are two aspects. I don't know. I want to give others also a chance to question. The two clear answer came. One is from Pujya Swami Sri, with regard to the question why so many gods exist in Hinduism. I like that answer. Only God exists.
Yes.
And we are invoking because everything is God. Everything is pervaded by God. That's the reason we invoking Mahaganapati, depends upon what he wants. Similarly, Venkadajalapati, whatever the way we want to worship them. So we invoking them because of. That's my reason. Am I right, sir?
Yes. Because God pervades, Ishvara pervades everything. We don't have a problem in invoking Ishvara in anything in the creation.
Yeah.
And basically, like we said, a plant or a tree, whatever, right? And even in turmeric, in any form. So we actually say that one can have an Ishta Devata for worship purposes. We don't. Advaita is never hung up on worshipping only some form of God. It says you can pick any form and worship.
Yeah.
So basically, all of this stems from the idea that there is only God. When there is only God, then you can have many gods also.
Okay.
So that is why somewhere else it says that there are crores of devatas also that can be worshipped.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you. I think I'll leave the forum to others to ask questions.
Sure. So anything else?
I think it was good today. Good.
Sure.
A lot of answers for questions that had come up in the previous sessions. Many were answered.
Yes. And basically, a karma yogi has to be able to appreciate this vision of Ishvara. And then we will develop on this topic as we connect, how one engages in karma yoga, etc. So one has to have some appreciation of this vision of Ishvara for that. And then slowly we will build up. And the final understanding that we have to come to is that I am the I, the real I is not separate from this issue. That is what we have to come to, and we are slowly building up all the all the ideas that we need to come together for that. But at this point, we are that would be Jnana Yoga. The Karma Yoga is not still worried about that final thing, but how we have to apply this understanding of Ishvara for the purposes of Karma Yoga is what we will immediately focus on in the next set of classes. Okay, then we will conclude today.
Hari Om.
Hari.
Hari. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you.